Well, since my last podcast, where I told you I had just published my latest book, which is a bit different from the many genres I've covered before, it's all about travel, but it's travel impressions. Impressions of those countries that for 14 years after I finished with broadcasting in Australia, I joined my wife in her venture, which had been going since 1994, in escorting Australians through Central and Western Europe. And so I had to really go on a fast learning curve and study all the history, and from 3 different countries, the country that we were in and also the surrounding countries, because they all put a different spin on their history. So I didn't write the history, but I had to research it all. And I then, after talking to guides as well that we used on those tours, I got the oral history passed down through generations of each country. And so I've started my series, which is a series called The Happy Wanderer. And book 1 is about where we started. My wife was Czech, so she had the great advantage over other people escorting Australians through this country just after the fall of communism, which she had escaped. Well, she had to make 2 attempts, but she was successful on the last one after interrogation by the KGB in the meantime. But she got out of here and came back when, in fact, the communists were gone. And so she had that advantage. But I didn't. I was from Australia and I had to do what I did in journalism. I had to investigate it all. And so that's what the book is really all about. For those people who have been asking what's in the book, we'll take a look on Amazon.com is the best place to look. Just put The Happy Wanderer, Les Thompson, it'll come up straight away. And they give you a look into the book, just a few preview pages. But I'm going to tell you more now because you seem interested in what I've been writing about. So book 1 is about the Czech Republic, but of course, we've been to so many places, and these are some of the places that we've been, just looking through the brochures here, and the many places that we've been, the many experiences that we had on tour with some wonderful groups. Great thing about Australian groups is that they're really interested. You know, they want to dip into the culture, and that's what we're all about. So, we closed the company in 2014. So all in all, my wife had 20 years travelling through Europe, and it was back and forth to Australia. It was pretty hectic stuff, and the marketing for those tours. And we were subcontracted to, in the end, the main agency. They were great because they took care of the administration, and we took care of the land content, and logistically that was a nightmare because these were special interest tours. And so therefore we had to get the best seats for music lovers, best seats in the house, and the best performances, and work it somehow into an itinerary through several different countries, which we did. Anyway, so that's how it was compiled. It was a matter of then 2 years of writing to finish just book 1, and I've done it, and I'll give you an idea of just what it was all about by showing you. First of all, you should take a look at the index and you'll get an idea of what we're covering. You see, it's not only the destinations, but also the photo gallery. I write the text after all the research and forming my own impressions, and a bit of cheeky stuff goes in along with my own impressions. But the photo gallery is what a lot of people are interested in seeing, just how beautiful and wonderful those destinations are. So let's start there. There you have them. You can see the destinations, and the stuff in red there are all photo galleries. So it shows you how much I got from videos and photos that I took along the way. And let's look at my own impressions from places like, say, Krumlov. I traced the source of the Vltava River, which is the principal river which runs some 400 kilometers. The Shumava Mountains, which is the border area between the Czech Republic, and the nearest neighbour on that side is, of course, Austria, and then a bit further up is Germany. And, of course, it's got quite a history. So I sourced that, but also then across to one of my favourite places, Český Krumlov. Just look at the photos from there. And I go in depth. I talk about the history, the many owners of there. That is Český Krumlov, the castle and the chateau, and the gardens, the royal gardens, are something really special too. And even the bears. I mean, they keep bears there. The Rosenbergs brought them in, and it's easy to see why, because they really thought they were related to the Italian noble family, the Orsini, from the 16th century. that they've had bears there, because the Rosenbergs, they thought that just having a few bears around would actually remind them of their claim to a very royal line or noble line. And I wonder, as they walked around in their ruffs, you know, the starch collars, the white collars from the 16th century, I wonder if it ever gave any notion to the pedigree of the animals that they brought there, because they seem to treat them well, but they also seem to wear a very tired expression, the bears, because they see these hordes of tourists going in and out of the castle every day. It must be so bewildering. That's just an aside. Many asides in this book, and anecdotes about the people that we've taken over there. And as you go down to the river, the Vltava runs right through there. I explained how that's quite a spectacle, watching the kayakers and the canoeists and some people on rafts avoiding the spillway and going down the side chute, and with a great splash of white water. Everybody's really captivated by it all. On the facade of one building there, you'll see the painted window figures, and they're definitely checking you out as you walk by. And the most memorable figure, I think the most memorable anyway for me, was the nun. She looks pretty stern. And she's on the lower Gothic window, and she's never seemed to approve of my presence in her midst. There's also a delightful place called Slaughtercollar, and this is wonderful. It means gold crown, and there's a long story about King Louis in France donating to one of the kings of the Czech lands a relic of the crown of thorns from the crucifixion. It's an amazing area. I mean, it's got one of the largest churches, for instance, in the whole of the Czech lands, and we're only talking about a village of very few people, except in summertime when the hordes come in to enjoy all the recreational areas, of course. But look at this. I mean, there's so much attached to the history of all these places that we went to. What my intention with the book was to take you beyond Prague. I think by now, it wasn't at the time we started the tours, but by now I think it's very obvious that a lot of people know about Prague. But of course I devote a lot of pages to it, delving right into the history and the characters in there, and the musicians, of course. We did musical tours for many years, and when you delve into the history of the musical background of Prague, of course it's the place where Mozart arrived and said, the people of Prague understand me, and he meant it, because they applauded ever since Figaro, which was, you know, giving a bit of a raspberry to the nobles from his own town of Vienna, where he mostly did his work, apart from being born in a provincial centre of Salzburg. They loved it, and Pragues could relate to that because they were occupied by the Habsburgs for so many hundreds of years. Anyway, so there's so much about Prague in there, but delving right into it, you know, it's not just a glib, well, make sure you see this. The must-sees are up to you, but the idea of what is available is all in this book. And of course the Charles Bridge, and we went across there in Christmas time as well. We saw Pavarotti perform in Prague, which is one of my great memories of doing that sort of work on the tours. Hardly work when you hear a voice like Pavarotti on the stage. But I'll show you a few of the photographs included here, but it's of course a cheeky narrative that goes along with a lot of it, because there are a lot of questions to be asked, especially about the communist rule. Not to mention the 30 Years' War between Protestants and Catholics, and that was really something that sent us around the town of Tabor. That's in there. A great warrior called Shishka is the principal character. But we delve into how they started to succeed and how they were eventually defeated, and all that sort of thing. One of the things that you might find interesting is that we also gave them a music and history stroll. This was mainly for the music groups, but also for other people who were on other special interests to us. We did wine and art and all sorts of special interests. And, you know, I have my view. For instance, I speak very frankly about the sour aftertaste of Czech wines, but it was a beer-drinking nation. So was ours, so was Australia's. Originally, until the table wines were introduced, and we found we liked them a bit. Certainly this person does. And So the music and history stroll shows you some of the places where these people performed. Of course, we went to all the concerts. And the father of Czech music, Bedřich Smetana, he was a big focus because we were often there on the 12th of May. We did May and September tours in the main. And we went to his performance of his famous work, the 6 symphonic poems, Ma Vlast, My Country. And there's a hell of a story behind that. Anyway, so that gives you an idea of some of the things that we got into. But look, I did filming all over the place. Went to the Hidden Castle, Karlstein, and that's an amazing story too. That's where Charles IV, this is from the 14th century, decided to hide the crown jewels, the Bohemian crown jewels. I'll talk about the word Bohemia too, because for many years the Czechs didn't understand why people were referring to Bohemia. Bohemia didn't exist for them. It was always Česky. And I'll tell you about the foundation of the Czech nation. And we go to the Christmas tours, and we show you around there. We show you places like Kutná Hora, which is amazing. Places that probably you haven't heard of, frankly. Also the places you have, like the famous spa towns of Karlovy Vary, Mariánský Lázně, and some anecdotes attached to our experience with the group, their experiences, and also, of course, the central theme, which was to dip people into the culture, understand what it's all about, not just whiz through, take a few happy snaps and think you've seen it. So that was our whole endeavour, and that's what the book's about. Paragraph after paragraph. There are so many fairy tales also in the Czech lands, and they are weaved into the legends of various places, and so we delve into that as well. So I hope you're getting an idea of what it's all about. This is just book 1 of a whole series of The Happy Wanderer. I hope you enjoy it, and it's available on Amazon. Amazon has various platforms, and this is being featured on most of them, but for reliable delivery, I would suggest that you go to Amazon.com, the headquarters, and if you're in Europe, perhaps through Germany, and that's Amazon.de. Anyway, if you're interested in what it's all about, whether you're intending to go there, which would be very helpful for that, but not only that, if you just like armchair traveling, what's wrong with that? I do it. And yeah, even now I do. That's all in the book, because I'm a happy wanderer.